like I said, we are going to make sure that we look over this data, be able to ask scientific questions, see that, oh, this title means this, so therefore I can assume this is what we're trying to find, okay? So when we do this today, we're gonna do a graph over different types of things like populations, how things react to temperature, and so on and so forth. But throughout our test, what I'm thinking of doing is finding out what exactly we're doing wrong. My biggest assumption is that we're going way too fast. We're looking at it and we're trying to speed through, and we're not focusing on the details within it. I'm telling y'all, if y'all read the paragraphs in these testing packets, the passages and all that, they will tell you everything, for the most part. They'll tell you everything for the most part. So if you look at this paragraph, I just drew some scribbles up here, but if you look at the paragraph, instead of going back and reading it over and over and over and over, and making yourself tired and less focused, you should highlight. So you can highlight within the paragraph, right? So like that. We can do that, we can underline, or we can circle. Now, you're saying here, Coach, what does that have to do, like, how is that going to help me? I still got to go back and read the paragraph, right? Well, the way we can do this, just to make it more effective while you do this, and it will save you time. It'll save you time. If I've highlighted something, put it in a table. Bring it over here to a table and go, okay, I had this number. What does this number pertain to? So you can make a title up here, right? So here's my title, here's that number that I had. It's just organized. I can go back to it, right? Same thing if I circled it. All right, put it down. Put it as a bullet point. Okay? Off to the side. You have that scratch sheet of paper, right? Use it. Fill it up. Fill it up with anything you can get. Whether that's a sentence, whether that's a number, whether that is a keyword. Look for anything with bold letters, bold words, and that will help you. I'm telling you, the passage will tell you a lot of different things. Okay? So be sure you're making tables and making bullet points in order to help yourself out. It'll save time. That way you ain't got to go back and read because it all becomes a blur in the end, doesn't it? It's kind of old. So use these things. Use your scratch sheet of paper. Use it. I'm telling you, the more resources you have, the easier it becomes. Okay? And now, like I said, now when it comes to actually getting to our graph and stuff that we're about to work on, we will get into more complex graphs tomorrow. Right now, we just want to go through the basics and knocking down some things of how do I read it, how do I label it, and looking into investigating if I look at this graph, what is this graph telling me? Based on the information that it's giving us, right? So we'll get there. So right now, I do want to say this. When we look at a graph, say this is a line graph, right? The vertical line here is the y-axis. Your horizontal line here is your x-axis, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and pass these out to you. Alright, now that we have this, let's look at the guts of it all, right? Look at the guts of it. So today we're going to be working with bar graphs and line graphs right here, alright? So I got a highlighter out, you can use your pencil, kind of circle it, do what you got to do to make sure it pops. So I suggest highlighting though. So bar graphs and line graphs. And again, bar graphs are used to compare amounts. Line graphs are used to show change in information. Okay? Now with that, as you look, both bar graphs and line graphs, bar and line, I have an x-axis that says horizontal right there, and I have a y-axis which is vertical right there, okay? Those are the main things we will be using, alright? Now, using parts of it, and again, we are going to get into these graphs where we have to label it and see how they are structured, okay? So we have the title. The title will summarize the information that we have in any graph. In any graph. We understand that. It just summarizes it. So it could be about deer population, which will be the first graph we do. Alright? We'll do it per month, and you'll just label it as deer population. Keep it short and simple. Next we have our independent variable. This variable is controlled by the experimenter. This has time, dates, depth, and temperature. This is placed on the x-axis. Remember, that is the one that is horizontal. Horizontal at the bottom. Our dependent variable is the variable that is directly affected by the independent variable. Okay? This usually deals with times, dates, depth, and temperature. And it's changed. This would be placed on your y-axis. One that goes up and down. Okay? Now this next part for the scale for each variable, that's talking about like the numbers on the side. So if you had temperatures, you had your table and there was the numbers on the side, how would you do that? Would you go by 2s on your way up in your graph? Would you go by 5s, 10s, so on and so forth? Okay, so you can highlight that it can be multiples of 2, 5, 10, 20, 25, etc. Okay, and those are your scales. And also, another thing that will help you is if you create a legend, right? Most graphs will have a legend. It'll have something that tells you what is what. And again, guys, this is something that you can use whenever you're investigating a graph, right? You look at it and go, what is this talking about? Well, use the legend. It's labeling its parts for you and it's telling you what it is. Okay? And we'll do that. We'll do that. Again, it's summing everything up there. Now, we won't be touching on median and mode, but we will be touching on mean, so getting the average, right? We're going to be adding all the numbers up in the set data and dividing it by the number of values present. Okay? Does everybody have that? Okay? We're going to go ahead and move on to the next part. So, our first graph that we're looking at, it already tells you at the top we're going to use a bar graph. So you notice it is bolded. It is bolded. So I can circle that with this red pen. You can use your pencil. I know we work on computers when we take this test, but you can write this in your scratch paper. You can write 1 and then put bar graph right there. It's something you can refer back to, right? So I circled it, bar graph. I know that that's what we're doing. Now I'm going to look at the information I got over here to the left. We have months, we have number of deer. Okay? So that number of deer has to deal with population. It has to, right? So when I look at it, I could probably guess my title eventually. Okay? So, real quick. Knowing that I got month, number of deer, I can probably find my independent and dependent variable, right? Or my x and y axis. So what I like to do first is I like to label this as y, right on the line though, right on the line. That way I know this is the y axis. And I have x over here. That way I know this is the x axis. So right there, horizontal. It's on that line. So we're good there. Alright. So I can tell you we are going to be labeling through this bar graph the number of deer per month, right? We're going to see a pattern of some sort. So I'm going to put the months on the bottom. So I'm going to put September right here. I'll draw lines right here so I know I have division. I'm going by 2 blocks. October, November, December, January, okay? Then on the other side we will do the number of deer because that's what we have left, right? So I'm going to go by 5s. Okay, I'm going to start with this first line. I'm going to go by 5, 10, 15, 20, all the way up. All the way up to 100. Now with this already being set out, right, we need to have titles. So we need to go ahead and label these. So right here I'm going to put months. Underline it. And now I'm going to turn my picture sideways. I'm going to put number of deer. Turn it back. And then based on the 2 things that they gave y'all, what do you think this title would be? What would you label it as? Has to do with number of deer and the amount of months.
Deer population.
Deer population, simple enough, right? Because we do deer population per month or something like that. That could be acceptable, but you don't want it to be too wordy, right? You don't want it to be too wordy. So we'll do deer population at the top. Good. So, with that being said, let's go ahead and make the graph. Let's go ahead and make the graph. So based on the numbers here, our first month of September, we have 38 deer. Right? Let's just say this is on a small farm. Okay? So 38. So we're about right here. So I'll draw a line across. I'll probably draw a line down. Just go ahead and block it off, right? October, what do we got there? 32, right? 32. So we'll go about right there, across, and down. Okay, November. 26. Nice and close. Okay. All my ladies, tell me what December is.
20.
20. Okay. January. 15. And the last one, February.
12.
12. Beautiful. Okay. So now we can color those in. Okay, so I get my highlighter. I can just simple do like that. Doesn't have to be nothing pretty. I'll fill the last one in with my pen. Okay. Now, what I like to do personally, so I don't have to strain so much trying to go across and look at the side, I like to write the value on top. So in September we said we had 38 deer, right? So I usually write 38 at the top. So that way I can look at it and go, alright, there's 38 there. And it makes labeling a little bit easier, I can see it faster, and I can move on. Next one is 32. Alright, 32 above. 26. 20. 15. And 12. Right? So with that being said, graph is good, right, for now. So let's make a key real quick over here to the side. Key. Or a legend, however you want to label it. And you can write y-axis equals, and I can put number of deer. Put x-axis, so over here. Equals months. Title, bless you. Equals deer population. Okay. And there we go. Simple enough. And you can block it off and square it off from there. So, from there, we can even do small labels to help yourself over here. So, what is the independent variable?